सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं प्रभवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। 47th श्लोक। Please repeat after me. श्रेयान् स्वधर्मो विगुणः
श्रेयान् स्वधर्मो विगुणः
परधर्मात् स्वनुष्ठितात्
परधर्मात् स्वनुष्ठितात्
स्वभावनियतं कर्म
स्वभावनियतं कर्म
कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्
कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्।
So yesterday we saw the first half of it. The second half says Swabhava niyatam karma kurvan napnoti kilvisham. There is a very beautiful story of Bhagwan Krishna in the Gokula. He gets to hear the reports that come to his father that the calf and the cows are dying. And they identify that it is a certain part of this river near Kalindi is where there is water which is contaminated, poisonous, and that is where these things are happening. So Bhagavan Krishna takes the bunch of calves, because at that time he was still very young, so he was given the calves' responsibility and not the cows. So while the calves are running around and grazing, they are playing something equivalent to cricket or baseball. That there is a stick and the ball is being thrown and they are hitting it. And Balarama is the biggest hitter and he happens to be the biggest pitcher also, or the bowler. So they are marking the distance, who is hit the longest, the farthest. So as this was happening, Bhagavan Krishna takes it, and usually if you have ever played cricket in the gullies, have you? Yes. You don't have that much. So in the streets where we lived, we would cordon off the street and play cricket there. So we come up with ingenious plans of how to create stumps. If it is during the examination time, our exam board, there would be a board that we would carry. We would clip them all together and create a long stumps kind of a thing. Lack of a bat, we use hand, we use leg, we use head also. Have you played leg cricket? No? So there are all kinds of things that just to keep it kosher, we say that full toss into anybody's house, you are out. So whichever house, whoever has hit it, you have to go bring it. And full toss onto anybody's window, no bringing, run. You don't want to be caught, run. So they had such rules, and the Kalindi aspect of the river was on this side, and they were playing on this direction that the ball was being thrown, and they were hitting. And Bhagavan Krishna turns around and aims that ball into the Kalindi. It's almost like a hook shot. You know, if you follow cricket. So he hooks it into the river, and everybody now complains that Krishna, why did you do that? Because you did that, now we cannot play. Now we had only one ball. Go get it. This is not fair. So Balarama is like scared. This is the exact spot where people have had the water and they were sick and they died. The cows have been found dead. And Krishna, I don't think you should be going there. So he says, Balarama, you take care of the rest of them. If I don't return, make sure that they are safe home. I'll come back. So like the text messages, BRB. What is BRB? Be right back. And he dives in. He fights with the Kalindi, the serpent, and it starts reacting. So he starts dancing on the hood of the multi-headed snake. So as Bhagavan Krishna is dancing there, he says, okay, fine. You want me to leave from here and go to the oceans? I'll go. But tell me one thing, was I really wrong? And that discussion, that dialogue between that snake, Kalindi, and Bhagavan Krishna is one of the most amazing aspects of that particular incident. So Kalindi says, Bhagavan, who created this world? Of course, I did. Okay. Who created me? I did. Who created me with poison? So Bhagavan Krishna smiled, he didn't say anything. So he asked, where are you heading with this? He said, Bhagavan, I did not use my existence to hurt anybody intentionally. I was not spewing this poison into this water with an intent to kill your cows or with an intent to kill anybody for that matter. Every so often the glands are filled with poison and they have to be drained out. And that is what I was doing. I have these beautiful wives and I have these children and I am taking care of them. And while I am doing this, I am using my equipment, I am using my God-given creation as an act of service to those people in my life, as if they were the very expression, the incarnation of God Himself in my life. And it says, however, in posterity, people may criticize that I have poisoned this part of the river, but I feel blessed, O Lord. Because I have been doing my Swadharma rigorously, it may not have been appreciated by others, but because I have been doing my Swadharma, that God who is constantly meditated upon and is sought after by all the Rishi Munis after doing lot of tapas, that God comes in search of me. And then those feet that are sought by all these Rishi Munis, He brings it on my head and dances to His will. I don't think I have done anything wrong. If need be, all that I did was fulfilled my Swadharma. And that Swadharma which I fulfilled may not have been as glamorous as others. But fulfilling my Swadharma and taking care, that the attitude with which I have taken care, it's needless to say, was more than sufficient to have Bhagavat Sakshatkara. And you have given me your darshana. Do you get the idea? The same concept is continued in the next shloka. Sahajam karma kaunteya
Sahajam karma kaunteya
sadoshamapi natyajet
sadoshamapi natyajet
sarvarambha hi doshena
sarvarambha doshena
dhumena agnirivrita. The throat refused to turn in that point. I found it funny. Sahajam karma kaunteya. You have a question, sir? Haji, pucho.
So I was wondering, is there really a multi-headed snake?
If it was a single-headed or multi-headed,
I understand.
the purpose of this story, did you get it?
Yes.
Because multi-headed will take a completely a tangential angle which doesn't serve the purpose right now.
I totally agree.
So can we continue? Any kind of questions accepted as long as it keeps the flow moving forward rather than taking it away. Sahajam karma kaunteya. Brahmacharya, the first 25 years of our life. Not if you are already married by then. Unmarried, introduced to the Gayatri mantra, and you perform the Gayatri mantra every day, chant the mantra rigorously. Those 25 years, the purpose of life is to identify that particular skill, talent, potential, that which makes me unique. It is not because others are doctors, therefore I have to become a doctor. It is not because others are getting into soccer, therefore I have to get into soccer. Find that particular skill. If as parents, if as this elder generation, well-wishers of this generation, can identify that talent in that individual and show them the process how to nourish it, we have given them the best tool for their entire life. We may not have given them bank balance, we may not have given them assets, but if you give this one aspect, as a bonus you give them assets and bank balance and other things. There's nothing wrong. But the key aspect of parenting is to identify this aspect of the child. Then what happens? Because that talent is unique and that skill is unique in that individual, which has been nourished to excellence, there is no rupture in the psychological aspect. There is no rupture. There is no resistance towards life. Such individual is the one, Monday or Sunday, it doesn't matter. They jump up and eagerly look forward for interacting with life. Otherwise, whether it is kids or adults, come Monday morning, what is the unique reaction that we all have? Oh my God, it is Monday again. I have to go and the job again, school again. It's not even Tuesday. What are we anticipating? When is the weekend going to come? And therefore we call it TGIF. I devised something called Thank Gurudev, it is Friday. Now come for satsang. Thank God it is Friday. Now come for satsang. Now come Monday, it is your own life. It is not like you are leading somebody else's life. It's your own children that you have to take care. It is not someone else's child. To wake my kid again, I tell you, mornings waking my kid is the pushing them to the bathroom. And they are also experts. You pick them up here from a horizontal position and put them in the bathroom. They lock up and then continue vertically there. Sitting there on the, hey, wake up, yeah, coming. Sometimes, and this is not an exaggeration, I've seen this. The kid goes into the shower, turns on, and the warm water is so warm that sits there and sleeps in the shower. It's so cozy. So come Monday, the kid doesn't want to go to school, the parent doesn't want to go to the office. Why is there that kind of resistance? So the mother is waking up her son. Beta utho, you have to go to the school. The son says, Mom, you don't know. Nobody likes me. I don't have a friend. The children don't like me. That's okay. Even the teachers don't like me. The mother said, enough. You are the principal. Get up and... And then we feel so burnt out in life. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what is my purpose. I don't know what is my direction in life. I don't know where am I going. What am I doing this? There is that sudden, what do you call it? Midlife crisis. You come to that portion of life. What is it, about 45? 40 to 50 is like that, midlife crisis, and you'll do all kind of crazy things. Suddenly go buy a sports car. Why? I don't know. I wanted something change in my life. Nothing productive, nothing constructive. Suddenly do something weird. Midlife crisis. We have a productive life. And how much is our productive life? From 25 to 65. How many years? 40 years. If at the end of these 40 years, we end up like, what the heck did I just do these 40 years? And there is a pit, and there is no understanding as to where those 40 years have gone by. Because there is nothing meaningful there. Why does this happen? And it is not a unique story of one single individual. The whole generation is of that set. The whole generation. Avoid. Not avoid. A void inside. Shunya, there is nothing. Why am I doing it? Because there is no attunement to my skill set. As I was referring to Einstein's quote yesterday, a talent of a fish is not in climbing a tree. First you have to identify that it's a fish, and its natural, sahajam karma, natural way of expression is in the waters. So each individual, what is our sahaja karma? What is it that we are good at? Lucky that somebody very elderly recognized that for me when I was young, maybe 7th, 8th grade. You have a knack to teach. That I also was thinking on the same. I said, good. I was thinking of going into physics. I did not realize that I'll have to go to the exactly opposite, metaphysics. Once you recognize that talent and dedicate your life for it, you don't need a vacation. And I can vouch for it. Personal experience. 23 years and counting. I have not taken a vacation in last 23 years. And you say that Saturday, Sunday? No, Saturday, Sunday is the busiest. We have 1400 kids, about 8 sessions in Saturday and Sunday. The day starts at 7, 8 ends at 9:30 at night. So morning 7 a.m., 9:30 p.m. What do you do, Swamiji? We thought sannyasis don't work. It is tiring. But I tell you, the satisfaction is that you have lived the day worthwhile. And that satisfaction, you feel so amazingly content. We all know Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore. He was constantly, while he was young, he had interest in painting. So being a lyricist, being a poet, being a singer, this came naturally for him. But he wanted to focus on being a painter. And his father asked him to focus only on one. It's after 60, when he started painting. If you go to the Kolkata Rabindra Ashram, you'll find his paintings there. Masterful strokes, if you understand the painting language. And this he developed after 60. And then when somebody asked, how do you feel after 60? I said, this is where I belong. Now I find contentment both inside and outside. This is where I belong. Another such example. He was from Tamil Nadu. His stars were so well aligned that he went up to become the President of India. Which one that am I talking about? Recent one. No, after that. Abdul Kalam. So he was in the Indian Space Research, he was in DRDO, he was in a lot of research for the Indian space research as well as defenses. And when he became the president, after he had already launched the successful launch of the Smiling Buddha, do you know what is Smiling Buddha project? To test the nuclear arsenal in Rajasthan, Pokhran. And he was the one who was leading that. And then he became the president. So, you must be on the top of your world. You are successful as a scientist, you are successful as a research scholar, you are successful as a defense researcher, you are successful in space research. Now you are the president. This is the heights of success. Are you the happiest man? Are you not the happiest man? Asked the interviewer. So his statement is worth noting. He said, successful, yes I am. But by the time I was 17 and a half, and I had lot of sisters and brothers to feed for. What was my passion, I had to put it aside and pursue that which would give me a living, so that I can take care of my brothers and sisters. And even till date, I have lived in earning so that I can provide for all of my family. My passion was to learn Veena. This is an interview. When he became president, this is the interview. I'm waiting for that day when I'll have an opportune teacher who will teach me how to play a Veena, and I will learn and enjoy playing it myself. I am successful, but I don't know if I am happy. In the Reader's Digest, there was a beautiful quote. After having climbed the ladder of success, I realized the ladder was on the wrong side of the wall. What good is that success when there is no contentment? There is no happiness. And when can you find that happiness? It is not afterwards. It is when you align your talent, identifying it towards something higher. Have you ever tried, I do a lot of experiments, like there's a big bowl of dish and it has to be served to next 100 people. And all that you have given them is a small tablespoon. And you have to serve each person 10 spoons. And then suddenly you get a big ladle. Do you understand the difference of effort and ease with which things will flow? We have to know which equipment to use for what. Just because the axe is sharp, do you use it for shaving? It may sound very ridiculous, but it's a genuine question. So early morning you pick out the axe and then sharpen it, and then though it is sharp, you use that to cut trees, not shave your beard. For that you need a shorter blade, which can be easily manipulated. You cannot use, because it is sharp, that blade for cutting the big tree. Yeah, Ramji felt really happy when that squirrel said, I'll like to do whatever little seva. So you take that little blade and I'll also do seva to the ashram and I'll cut this tree. When? Will it be any beneficial? The right tool for the right job. To identify it, sahajam karma kaunteya. And it may not be great. Don't compare it with others. And this is what we need to be careful as parents. Never compare two kids. Never compare two talents. They are not same. I remember I was a very volatile, violent, rebellious kid. Whenever I was told that my neighbor's son was doing better in school, so I used to say, throw me in the trash can, bring him as your child. No complaints. And my dad would react and he would argue with me. How can you say that? How can you say what you said? I am good in soccer. He doesn't know a squat as to how to even run. So compare that. Give me a school program and I can rally up the entire school for an event. Ask him to do that? No, he cannot. I said, why do you even compare? And to tell you an amazing part, sometimes this comparison goes all the way even after becoming a sannyasi. I'm not joking. I came to Dallas in 2002, and I observed the environment for about 3 months. Close observation about everything that is there. So after 3 months, we had a board meeting. So I called all of them, said, I have something to present. I said, I have a 5C formula. They said, they were all skeptical. I did not reveal it in the email or even in the phone call, saying, what is this 5C formula? So as they all came in, I said, I need these 5 things. What are the 5 things? First C, I need a computer. Second C, I need a cable. In those days, both the TV and the computer internet was given through the cable network. So I need a cable. I need a cell phone. I need a car. And the last one, the jaw dropped. I need a credit card to pay for the earlier phone. Back in India, I had never had a need for any of this. Maybe one part of it. Maybe a vehicle that which I used. He knows. We used to in Vijayawada drive cycle, moped, scooter, whatever comes handy. So when I said these 5, their jaw dropped and they said, look at other acharyas, they don't have all these things. I was like, man, can't they ever stop this comparison? Even as an acharya, you have to compare it with others. Their skill sets are different. Understand the skill set and cater it to that skill set. On one side, science, we are saying that the medicine has to be given its such appropriateness that it caters to their genetic coding. And the rest of the life you just lead as a pathetic existence without focusing on what is required. And that is why what is life? Chale chhe. Chalta hai. And that chalta hai attitude gets into everything, every aspect of life. Never focus on anything sublime or excel in anything. You can excel because that is your personal trait. Find what it is. Rabindranath Tagore ji found it at 60. There is only one person, I would say, who is qualified at that age. The rest of us have a lot of years to go there. Sahajam karma kaunteya sadosham api na tyajet. Once you identify it, stop comparing it with others and pursue to excel through that and dedicate that talent for something higher. Sarvarambha hi doshena. All actions have a flaw in them. There is no action out there which can be called as a perfect setup. They will have tamasic aspect, they will have rajasic aspect, they will have sattvic aspect. It is not perfect. But through that, you can do a lot. And this is something that one needs to meditate upon. Now, the question that you should be asking me, hold on. The question that you should be asking, how do I identify this talent in me? At each level, physical, emotional and intellectual level, write down and be conscious of all the patterns that are there existing in us. There are certain things which are reactionary. Weed them out. At the physical level, emotional level and intellectual level, identify that which is a skill, that which is a talent, that which is a potential. What is it that is required to bring up these talents and to nourish them? What are the tools required? Identify them. Equip and slowly start working towards perfecting each one of them. Very few of us are like Arjuna, who have both their profession and passion mashed up together to be one. It may not be your profession, but at least find that passion a avenue. It is not like you have finished with your job, come back home, eat and again sleep. Nothing productive done. And when you find something that beautiful, that you can dedicate your life, it may be taxing, but it is refreshing. Are there anybody into sports? Golf and Solari. Golfing is not a sport. It's a waste of a beautiful walk over a stupid white ball. Golf.
Cricket.
Oh, another white ball. Cricket. Okay, the sport. So after a busy day, when you get to that zone, when you are into that sport, you're sweating. But after you have played 1.5 to 2 hours and you come out, how do you feel?
I also play racquetball.
Racquetball. Don't you feel refreshing? You feel rejuvenated. You are tired, but you are rejuvenated too. Somebody who does not have it, push them into that racquetball court. A ball coming from all directions and they're like all confused and come out so frustrated. I'm not going there again in my entire life again. Sometimes you forcefully bring your friend to satsang. You should see their frustration on their face. They're like constantly every 2 minutes once looking at the watch and then they're like and looking at everybody. And what is there to laugh here? That fellow speaking, this fellow laughing. There's nothing here. And I cannot leave, I cannot run. And they're like constantly fidgety, agitated. Find that avenue, nourish it and dedicate it. Yes, sir. You had a question?
I'll ask it later.
Later. Thank you. Gracias. Sarvarambha hi doshena dhumena agni iva avrata. And that dosha is like the smoke covering the fire. It's not that difficult. Just blow it and the smoke will be gone. And that which is the fire in you will be revealed. Don't give up because you have already children. Even now, and when you're looking at a grand scheme of things, this is just one portion of life. The various lives that we have lived and come to this intersection of life wherein we have the opportunity to understand that this is how life has to be viewed and perceived. So now at this intersection of life, can we waste it? I don't need an answer. Think. This is a good moment to pause. Think. Continuing, Bhagavan says, Asakta buddhi sarvatra.
Asakta buddhi sarvatra.
Asakta buddhi sarvatra.
Asakta buddhi sarvatra.
Jitatma vigata spruha.
Jitatma vigata spruha.
Naishkarmya siddhim paramam.
Naishkarmya siddhim paramam.
Sannyasena adhigacchati.
Sannyasena adhigacchati.
असक्त बुद्धि सर्वत्र जितात्मा विगत स्पृहः संन्यासेन अधिगच्छति नैष्कर्म्य सिद्धिं परमाम्. See, the words have to be understood properly. Sometimes with reference as to where it is being referred to, the word changes its depth and meaning. Like if they use the word dharma, dharma has about 16 shades of meaning. Shraddha has about 45 shades of meaning. Each word can be used with different shades of meaning, and one has to understand with the reference where it is used. Right? Sometimes it can be colloquial. Like when you come into this country and when you're talking to the young boys, youngsters, and they say, "Oh man, you're bad." When they say you're bad, what do they mean? You're actually awesome, you're good. Bad means you're good. And then there was my shock a long time ago. This African American, the defender on the football team. This is in Southwestern Medical University. I am 6 foot, and he is taller than me, wider than me. I am intimidated, like going through those university hallway, and he looks at me. I look at him. I am scared, so I put my head down, and so one day I was looking at him, and he looks at me and does this. Now we know what does it mean. At that time, coming just from India, imagine if you're going into a lane or a hallway and somebody looks at you and says, it's like they're challenging you, why are you here? Right? Yo, yahan kyun hai? Huh? I said, oh, baapre, he must be angry at me. So I put my head down and ran. So I asked a 11th grader, 12th grader, so what does that mean? Oh, Swamiji, nothing. He's just saying hi. So I said, how do I react? How do I respond to him? So he said, you also say this. So at that time, it is not a complete thing like this. It has to go halfway and then drop. And it took me a 30-minute practice session with him. I learned it. So next Thursday or Friday that I was in the university for Yuva Kendra class, this African American looks at me and then he does this. So I was told, so the apt response to that would be like this. And he stepped forward. He was walking near the wall. He stepped forward and said, "What's up, dog?" And there are so many reactions exploding in my head. Dog? What did I do now? What wrong did I do? He must be mad. He must be really angry at me. He's calling me Kutta. Kyun be kutte? What's up, dog? That is my translation. Then I ran to this kid again and I said, he said this. Why did he call me a dog? Swamiji, it is not D-O-G, but it is D-A-W-G. It means friend. I said, who in heaven invented this? A dog means a friend?
It is. It is very local.
You have taken it to a totally different side, but I didn't mean that way.
So that particular day, all questions came out of syllabus.
Oh, totally. I was completely stunned. So similarly here the word used is sannyasa. What does sannyasa mean? What do you understand about sannyasa? What does sannyasa mean?
Giving up.
Renunciate.
Yeah.
Renounce. That is the meaning of sannyasa. That is only one aspect of the meaning. The other aspect of the meaning is to hold on to something which is of a higher value firmly is also called nyasa. Do you read Vishnu Sahasranama, Lalita Sahasranama and such things? Rudram chanting. In the beginning there is a precursor to the main chanting. It is called Nyasa. After dhyana there is Nyasa. There is Hridaya Nyasa, there is Anga Nyasa, there is Karan Nyasa. Nyasa there means to invoke something higher, sublime, and to hold on to it and abide in it. So here, sannyasa, both meanings have to be taken for it to be justified. That you have to give up that which is lower, and while you are giving up that which is lower, you have to tightly hold on to that which is higher. It's like as you walk on a ladder. You know, on a ladder when you walk, you hold on to the higher, and then the lower has to be given up as you are moving up. So to hold on to is also sannyasa, to give up is also sannyasa. Both aspects of meaning has to be taken. Asakta buddhihi sarvatra. Now once you identify your skill set, you are not distracted by the world and its worldliness. Why? Something more interesting than the worldliness has already been recognized within. Not identifying it, we fall for everything that looks attractive. Asakti rasakta buddhihi, being completely detached because you are attached with that which is valuable within. Jitatma vigatas purhaha. Jitatma, the one who has his intellect high above the clouds of confusion. See, the animals are called tiryak. Tiryak meaning head, heart, stomach and the lower organs are all in one horizontal line. The same value for all of them. But a human being, the sequence is the head, then comes the heart, then comes the stomach, then comes the lower organs. What has to be given highest priority? Whose head? The intellect, the buddhi is of the highest priority. Manas, the mind is the next. Where are the confusions usually? The clouds of confusions are in the heart, the emotions. And where should the clarity be? The clarity should be in the buddhi. With that light of clarity, when you see your buddhi and the rest of the organs of perception action, you will find seamless clarity. Jitatma, the one whose buddhi is established in clarity. So your question to me should be, how does the buddhi achieve that clarity? How did you learn to do something perfectly?
Practice.
During that practice, are there different scenarios wherein you have failed again and again and again?
Yes.
Yes.
But to brand them as failure would be inappropriate. Because each experience has a valuable lesson to learn from so that I can perfect my next attempt. Isn't it? Otherwise, we give so much of validity to failure, then we would never be able to progress in life. Look at the spirit of the small kid. How many of you have a toddler right now? Started walking? Man, how many times do they fall? Sometimes they end up getting hit, cry. Do they give up? They don't. They again stand up, again try, again fall. Until when do they keep trying it?
Till they get better.
Until they start walking. Until they start running. Right? Every attempt of their falling cannot be considered as a failure. As a parent sitting there and say, सुनती हो, ये तेरा बेटा है, चलना भी नहीं आता, failure है. This must be definitely your genes. This fellow doesn't even know how to walk. Does not speak. It is taking a while for them to speak. Swamiji, once they start speaking, you will say, why is this fellow speaking? Delayed speech. They keep attempting again and again and again, irrespective of who is laughing at them. When they come in that groove, they have been taught Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti, but then how do they chant it? They can't pronounce it properly. Even Hari Om doesn't come out properly. Havi Om. What is Havi? That is their way of saying Hari. Sometimes they get so enthused. What they speak, nobody understands. And the mother tries to interpret. Swamiji is saying Hari Om. The mother interprets, he is saying Hari Om. Speak in exact language and tell him also my Hari Om. And from that stage they grow to the next stage. And what do they say? Vakratunda Mahakaya, Baklatunda Mahakaya, Kula Bakla, Nimekra, Sarada. And you should see the parent, ear to ear smile. Big achievement. But they don't give up. Because every experience of falling is a process of learning. There is no point being dejected or rejected because of my falling, because it has taught me invaluable experience firsthand. Well, I could have been intelligent in seeing someone fall and learn from it. Too bad, I have already fallen. I learn from it. That is why when the children are young and they are exposed to a lot of things, they pick up fast, they learn fast because they don't have ego associated with learning. How many of you had to take your children to the ice rink? Have you tried skating with them? Those kids just pick it up like that. How much time did it take for you to go one circle? You didn't even attempt.
More gravity.
Huh?
More gravity.
It is a shame that I fall and I already given up. I suck at this. But the child falls, gets up and says, okay, how are they doing? Let me also try. There is no ego associated with it. It is the same mindset one has to develop. Trash that ego. Learn and be ready to make use of every experience instead of branding it as a failure, as tag it differently. It's a learning curve. What have I learned from it? Every experience becomes a teacher. नैष्कर्म्य सिद्धिं परमां संन्यासेन अधिगच्छति. This is how Naishkarmya Siddhi, the act of dropping the actor, dropping the ego in the act. In the second chapter, we went through equation, which I kept repeating again and again. Does anybody remember that equation? The moment I say it, everybody will start repeating it.
Is it karma plus karya?
Minus the do.
Something like that. Now, dealing with all of you, I have also become intelligent. I will not give in. Yeah, something like that.
What did you say?
Okay. Karta plus karma equals karya. Karta plus karya equals karma. Karta plus karya equals karma. Karma minus karta, there is still karya being done. It's not.
No. Philosophically understanding what he just said.
No, I'll make it very clear because it was in Hindi or in Sanskrit may look confusing. Act plus the doer equals action. From the action, remove the doership. What remains? The act still remains. I have given various examples for this. You are in the aeroplane, the flight, and the fellow who was sitting right in front of you, his wallet or passport fell down. What is your immediate reaction?
Pick it up.
One lesson to learn. Last time I picked it up and it was one of our own mission members. He ended up accusing me, saying, when did you flick that from me, Swamiji? You have that skill also. I said, "Abbe teri." So since then I have learned, tap on his shoulder and say, is that yours? If it is yours, go pick it up. So when you are giving that person's wallet or passport back, are you having a camera in a selfie mode and then me giving away do you have any such idea in your head? And then post it on Twitter, post it on Facebook, on WhatsApp to all the friends across. That thought also doesn't cross our mind. Because there is no doer there. Doer does something so that he can enjoy. In that moment, in doing, there is no enjoyment. But it is done because it is the best thing to do. Does it make sense? It's the most human thing to do. The best thing to do. There is nothing rewarding to look forward for it. The act in itself, performing it, the satisfaction is its reward. Does it make sense? Then you can come back home and then you can, spin a beautiful story. There is this family and their entire wallet, there was a wad of cash in there, and then add lot of masala and then smear it across and spin a story. Who is doing it? At that point, there was only an act. There was no doership. But there is a sucker inside who is asking for a pat on the back, the ego. Comes home and starts narrating this story. Why is he narrating this story? What is he expecting? Wow! Kya kaam kiya? Awesome. So you need only that, right? So can you all lift your right hand? Turn it around. Bend it. Do it often. Sometimes in the Balvihar I tell them, take both your hands, catch your cheeks, and then you don't need somebody to come and do it for you. You are such an awesome person. You do it for yourself. Naishkarmya siddhim paramam sannyasena adhigacchati. Samsiddhim, okay, the next shloka. A beautiful conclusion this time. The next 4 shlokas are awesome. Take home for the entire week. Siddhim prapto yatha brahma.
Siddhim prapto yatha brahma.
तथाप्नोति निबोध मे
तथाप्नोति निबोध मे
समासेनैव कौन्तेय
समासेनैव कौन्तेय
निष्ठा ज्ञानस्य या परा
निष्ठा ज्ञानस्य या परा
सिद्धिं प्राप्तः यथा ब्रह्म. How does one achieve this stage of liberation from all kinds of limitations and experience that comprehensively? Hey Arjuna, listen to this. When he has been giving this process right since the 2nd chapter. In the 18th chapter, he is just bringing everything into a conclusion. So he is giving the entire process in a beautiful step-by-step order. So if you can mark 51, 52 and 53. These 3 shlokas gives us whether it is an external format or an internal format, whether it is for the leadership or tuning the mind or equipping the intellect or into the finer details of spiritual sadhana. These 3 shlokas have a solution for all aspects of life. A quick one-stop solution. A quick fix. Do you want to go through those 3 right now?
Yes.
Repeat after me. बुद्ध्या विशुद्धया युक्तः
बुद्ध्या विशुद्धया युक्तः
धृत्यात्मानं नियम्य च
धृत्यात्मानं नियम्य च
शब्दादीन् विषयान् त्यक्त्वा
शब्दादीन् विषयान् त्यक्त्वा
रागद्वेषौ व्युदस्य च
रागद्वेषौ विरस्य च
बुद्ध्या विशुद्धया युक्तः. Isolate one's own intellect and equip it with vishuddhaya yuktaha, pure, clear understanding. Where does the unclear and impurity start from? There are 2 words that I would use to know the difference. One is called manipulation and the other one is called management. What does manipulation do?
Misrepresent.
The manipulator also recognizes the potential of the environment. But what do they use that potential for? For their selfish gains. And the one who is a manager, what does the manager do? The manager also recognizes the potential, but gears it up towards a selfless growth of the entire team. Similarly, when the buddhi is clear steering away from the demands of the mind, demands of the emotion, and understands very clearly, like what happens during the night. Who sets the alarm? Which part of me sets the alarm? It is the buddhi that is deciding. In the morning, who is it that is reacting to wake up?
Body.
That is the body and the mind. But then, if the buddhi has amazing clarity, that clarity is so strong that both this mind and the body are aligned to that clarity. I can give you various examples that would have happened in the same waking up. You are eagerly waiting to pick up somebody from the airport, and that somebody comes from India. Usually the flights are very vague hours. So midnight sometimes, or early morning 3:34. You have set yourself an alarm. If the flight is coming at 4 o'clock, so you have set your alarm for what time? 3:30. Before the alarm can go off, haven't you shocked yourself that you have woken up and woken up very fresh? It was not groggy. You woken up very fresh. How did it happen? The eagerness, the enthusiasm for that incident, for that experience that you have planned and you have set things, it is so clear, there is no ambiguity, there is no vagueness in it. It is so clear that it has whipped the body and mind into shape. But why doesn't this repeat every day? Because one aspect of it, while I am setting my alarm for the next day, is like, do I really need to? These days it is getting really cold. And that early morning, is it necessary? Is it really? And this is the kind of doubting while you are doing it. There is no conviction in that clarity. Therefore, it does not act out on the other aspects of our existence. Buddhya vishuddhaya yuktaha dhrutyatmanam niyamyacha. Now here they're focusing on the higher spiritual topic. Please pay attention. With the buddhi which is clear, holding on to, see, buddhi has two aspects. A lower, baser buddhi, which is tamasic. Higher buddhi, which is sattvic. Holding on to that sattvic aspect, and you are looking at the tamasic aspect, don't try to judge, don't try to define, don't try to assimilate what is the content of that baser thought. Just observe it and let it pass by. You are sitting in India in front of your gate, and there is the sewer, the dirty water is flowing. Do you take a stick and keep checking what is flowing in there? I'm just asking. Does it sound interesting? Why? Because that is exactly what you are doing with your mind. If it has a baser aspect of it, don't need to brood into it, identifying what is the content, where is it coming from, how is it. No. You see it, recognize it, and disidentify from it. Let it pass by. Instead, what do? We dive into it. Try to identify what is the content, where is it coming from, who is it about, where is it going, what is. And then you realize, oh, I'm sitting for meditation. This is not what I should be doing. How do I disidentify? Stop branding the thought. It does not matter if it is a good thought, bad thought, indifferent thought. Stop branding it. There is a movement. Whatever be the movement, disidentify from that movement. And where is the platform? A sanctuary within that you have created, which is not disturbed by any other movement of the mind. That platform, buddhya vishuddhaya yuktaha. And then make a final check. There's a lot of Vedanta in the flight attendant's announcement. What does the captain of the flight announce for the flight attendants? Check and cross-check before taking off. So what are they checking and cross-checking? Seatbelt is already checked. This check and cross-check is the doors. If the latch and everything has been, there are like 8 people, it cannot be like, he thinking that she would do it, she thinking that someone will do it, and then finally it is there and it was not latched, and you have just taken off and it opens. That's why the announcement there is, check, attendants, check and cross-check. So it has to be 2 people at each gate. One checks and one cross-checks. Similarly here, Shabdadin Vishayans Tyaktva. Check and cross-check all the organs of perception action. May they be withdrawn from their individual fields of activity. Meaning what? Meditation, it is not a meditation if you are still listening to some music. It can be called as listening to music as a bhajan sadhana. That is not called meditation. Swamiji, there is such beautiful music, I put that music and I go into meditation. That is not called meditation. Shabdadin Vishayans Tyaktva. Shabda, withdrawn from there. These neo-pseudo meditators out there in the market have glamorized it quite a bit. Marketed it in such a way. I told you, right, when I got sannyasa, I got a package. A very thoughtful. The Dhamma put a thoughtful thing in it. Everything was organic, meditative. So there was organic meditative asana that she got. And then she had put in organic meditative herbal essence, organic meditative relaxing tea, organic meditative, everything had the tag on it. CD, music. All these were fine. The last one is still, I have not used any of that basket, it is still there intact. The last one is still, it still cracks me up. organic meditative soap. I don't know the purpose of it. What do you expect me to do? Go into the shower and use that and I'm already levitating. And they're fools marketing it and we are fools buying it. Meditative music. Meditation begins when all the organs of perception action are shut.
But is that a step one? I mean, can you directly go to that?
No. This is the 18th chapter.
Ah,
So at 18th chapter I am not talking about step 1, I am talking about the 18th step. If you want the first step, go to second chapter. Right? Fair enough?
very fair.
You come on the final day and then say, "Can we start with the first?" You may, but that is not called meditation. And then the people come and want to sing as singers. Raga, it is the throat, the nuances that has to build. That doesn't come. Head moves. Head moving is not equal to singing. Getting across? Shabdadin vishayans tyaktva raga dvesha vyudasya cha. Raga dvesha, you are above, beyond liking or disliking towards anything. Child to a certain age, they are attached to their Barbie doll or Iron Man or a car or whatever it is. After a certain age, that same doll, the same toy is still lying there. Do you have any emotions towards it? Good or bad? It is there, it is there. I neither have an attachment that, oh, this is the toy that I lived my entire childhood so thankful to. No, it is there. It is this toy because of whom I quarreled with everybody, this wretched toy. No. What is dispassion? The presence or absence does not create a iota of change in my existence. है तो है, नहीं है तो नहीं है. It's there, it does not distract me. It is not there, does not distract. There is no liking or aversion to it. And the subtlest here, liking or aversion towards any thought. Is it a worthful thought? Is it a worthless thought? Is it a good thought? Is it a bad thought? These are all attributes of the thought. I, who am witnessing this thought, do not have the attributes of goodness and badness. Are you getting it? I've given this example again and again. A knife, is it good or bad?
Neither.
It's not.
That's all you do.
Neither.
You have not understood my question. A knife, is it good or bad? It is neither. Because the moment you say it depends on who uses it, you have not understood my question. Because you are answering somebody's intent behind the knife, you are not answering about the knife. The knife as such is neither good nor bad. ऐसी वस्तु है भाई, पड़ा है. Who uses it makes it good or bad. That intent makes it good or bad. The vastu as such is neither good nor bad. Does it make sense? Stop branding good or bad. Withdraw from that final thought. And then do what? It is said in the next sloka. Vivikta sevi laghvashi yatavakaya manasaha dhyana yoga paro nityam vairagyam samupashritaha Vivikta sevi laghvashi yatavakaya manasaha. If that effort of meditation has to find any benefit in life, just by sitting there for half an hour or 1 hour is not going to bring any change. For that half an hour to find any benefit, any deep impact, we should start reforming our other 23 and a half hours. If that half an hour of meditation has to find impact, the other 23 and a half hours should be aligned towards that. It's a simple thing, simple logic. You're looking as if so tensed, trying to grasp the concept, and it seems to be very mystical. There's no mystic here. You have your child's wedding. There is one source of income. What do you do with everything that is coming in?
Budget.
You plan and budget it and save for that event. Right? You cannot say, it is 6 months later, let me enjoy today, let me spend on this. No, whatever spending, it is just for the bare requirement and not for any unnecessary luxuries. Very clear about it. Similarly, if I am focusing that half an hour for meditation, the other 23 and a half hours, should it not be aimed towards helping that half an hour? You cannot do all kinds of disco and sometimes it is funny. Saturday people come. And in the look of the face you can tell that they are having a And straight question, Swamiji, all this is fine. When are you teaching us meditation? I said, what do you want meditation for? So that I can realize. But yesterday you were in disco, yesterday you were in that pub, your eyes can clearly show that. And suddenly today you come and one day, one little effort and you want to realize? Does it really help that work that way? Any doctor here? Both of you. How long does it take to become a doctor?
20 years.
I would say about 31 years. 31, 32 years. Right? You start from your kindergarten, go through the 10th grade, then 12th grade, then you go through your undergrad, then you go through your MCAT? No. Medical school, and then residency, and then fellowship. Whew. Your half life is done. By the time you become a professional, qualified doctor. Right? Consistent effort towards that direction. Similarly, if that half an hour has to be beneficial, the other entire 23 and a half hours, how careful should we be? Can we be dissipating that energy unnecessarily everywhere? It has to be conserved so that it benefits there. Vivikta Deshi, Laghvashi, the one who eats little just to sustain the body. It is not like it is there, therefore you is a daba ke kha rahe ho. And sometimes the mothers are also very funny breed. Swamiji, finish that sweet. Why? The children are also going on vacation.
Oh yeah.
There is nobody else. Waste ho jayega. Please finish it. Eat mita laghvashi. Yatavak kaya manasaha. Being conscious about every single thought, word and deed that is being performed and executed by me. There is never a situation that afterwards I look back at my life saying, gosh, I should have thought about it earlier. Trying to lead a life which does not have any regrets. Psychologically they say, a psychopath does not have regrets. Because he doesn't feel them. I'm not talking to become a psychopath. That is not what is intended. They are unconsciously living, psychopaths. I want you to live so consciously that there is no room, there is no scope for regrets to exist. Regrets are expressions of unconscious living. Live life so consciously that there is no scope for it. Yatavakaya manasaha. Such one, when nityam dhyana yoga paraha, such one who has acquired that kind of stability within, sits on the seat of meditation, closes the eyes and goes straight, not to sleep. I'm not kidding. And we have spiritual retreats and people are interested to come to that meditation class early in the morning, 5:30. They have not prepped up for that, so they don't have an asan, so they bring that towel that the hotel provides, the bed sheet for ushering themselves up. It has to be recorded sometime. Hilarious. You have just started giving the instruction, just finished Om, and you can already start hearing. I'm not joking. I have to have at least 6-7 volunteers running around that the moment you hear a snoring sound, please poke them and wake them up to consciousness. Otherwise they'll be disturbing others. But for the one who has such prepared platform inside, when they close their eyes, the entire world is shut behind. They focus on that conscious silence within. It is not sleep, it is not inertia, it is awareful awakened existence. And that silence is undisturbed. Once you reach to that core of silence, the externalities of time and space is completely forgone. Sometimes you don't even know how long you have been sitting. A couple of times it happened that I missed my Saturday and Sunday sessions. So now I have to consciously remember that today is Saturday, today is Sunday, I should not sit for meditation. Because the sessions cannot be attended otherwise. You lose track of time. just to make sure that I was not sleeping. I've done all kinds of experiments. I put a record on the tape. And once I got my clarification that okay, I was not sleeping, I was not snoring away to glory. That silence is beyond words. Once you are rooted into that silence, then you look at the world around, you see possibilities, you see freshness, you see the same world which you were seeing earlier, but with a different brilliance, with a different glow of possibilities that you see. That is no more overwhelming. It is that world which has brilliance in it everywhere. Vairagyam samupashritaha. For reaching that silence within, one has to focus on removing these things consciously every step of the 23.5 hours. What are they? I'll just mention it and wind up today. Ahankaram balam darpam.
Ahankaram balam darpam.
Kamam krodham parigraham.
Kamam krodham parigraham.
Vimuchya nirmama shantaha.
Vimuchya nirmama shantaha.
Brahma bhuyaya kalpate.
Brahma bhuyaya kalpate.
For that half an hour to be effective, the 23.5 hours, our every single action, thought, word and deed should not have ahankara, bala, darpa, kama, krodha and parigraha. Parigraha, hoarding. Vimuchya nirmamaha. Vimuchya, giving up the identification of ahankara and mamakara. That is the only key to find Shanta. Shanta, silence. Such one who has found the silence alone can find that ultimate blissful state of happiness. So remind me next time that I come that I can start with these 3 shlokas again. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamada Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.